And we're joined by Steve Bone, and the first thing we have to do is a couple of cartwheels, Steve, because that was 3 good points the last time out.
It was. I'm not sure I'm up to cartwheels these days, so I'll leave those. I'll leave those to other people. I'll leave those to Lamana Lualua and other people that are good at them. Yes, we said last week, didn't we? We just had to win that game. Didn't matter how, really. Just had to win it. Just had to get the points, and we did. And I thought we deserved it. Actually, overall, started well. Faded a bit when it didn't come to anything, and that's when you start to worry, because we've seen that a few times this season. Then Blackburn came through, cut through rather easily for their goal. I thought it was a bit of soft defending by us, but it was interesting that the crowd didn't turn, did they? I think the crowd were a bit edgy, a bit nervous, and it was still 1-0 at half time, but there was never it could have got, the word they use these days is toxic, isn't it? And it could have got toxic, but it didn't. And then second half we came out. I think for me actually the sight of Bishop at half time in his kit, with the other subs out there, but in his kit and clearly about to come on, I thought that gave everybody a lift, because people could see that the manager knew he needed to change something. He was going to bring on Colby, and although Colby's not had a good run of form with goals, that I think people wanted to see that at that stage. And then the change he then made just before the hour, Kosnowski coming on for Swift, who it just didn't happen for Swift on Saturday, did it? I thought that just changed the whole. That was the right change at the right time. Just lifted everything. And then I thought that from the moment we had that little spell where we had 3 shots blocked all in one move.
Yeah.
That I think at that point, fans knew a goal was going to come, and a few minutes later it did. And I something I noticed during that second half, and the manager picked up on it a little bit afterwards when he talked about how loud the place was when that equaliser went in, when Lang arrived on the end of Murphy's cross and whacked it in. I thought it felt like the equaliser was more important than the winner, because I think that's because as soon as we got the equaliser, people had a bit of faith that we were then going to go on and win it. If anybody was going to go on and win it, we were, because we just had the momentum. Whereas until we got the equaliser, that was 3.5 games without a goal. Are we ever going to score again? And then we do score, and then that is the relief that lifts everybody, takes some of the tension away. And I thought it was fairly comfortable, really, once we got the winner. Boat nodding in his corner. I thought it was fairly comfortable after that, and a big win, much needed, and got us, and as a bonus, got us out of the bottom 3 at the same time, didn't it?
Just dwelling on that equaliser, because it's a pleasant sensation, isn't it? You're absolutely right. There was something even more special about the equaliser than the winner. He does like to burst the net, doesn't he, Lang? And there's something almost celebratory about. He begins his celebration with the strike that goes into the net, because he whacked it in, didn't he? He could have tapped it in. It was a tap in, but he whacked it in.
He doesn't do tap-ins, does he? I mean, he was only 2 yards out. But, people will say, well, he couldn't miss from there because it was such a good cross. It was, but he still had to be in the right place for it. And in the time that Lang was out this season, we saw plenty of those Murphy crosses going across, and there was nobody on the end of them, nobody to touch them in. Bishop had a few that he perhaps should have been on the end of, and others as well. So, well done to Lang for getting in where he needed to be, and we know that he can do that. And he something I noticed about it is that when the ball came back off the net, he actually sort of caught it himself and ran away with it, didn't he? So I think there should be a new rule. I'm calling for a new rule, actually. I think if a goal scorer catches the ball after it's gone in the net from his own goal, he should be able to, the attacking side should be allowed to play on with possession and try to get another one straight away.
No, that's not going to catch on. But anyway, when they scored their goal, and the fella took it well, didn't he? The defending wasn't of the greatest, but that's partly because a centre-back and a full-back were up overlapping the man on the ball, so that we were exposed there. So that's possibly worth thinking about. But it was how we came to give them possession. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it back, but it was John Swift on the ball, and he tried to get the ball to Yang, but it was the wrong choice, because by the time he actually made the pass, Yang was not just covered, he had a man in intercepting position, and he intercepted, whereas a much simpler ball would have been to have gone wide, because I think it was Lang who was free on the right. But Swift wanted to do the penetrating ball going directly forward, which is, I think, something that they talk about, going forward with their passes. But it was, and when you look at it again, it was the wrong call, and it was a dumb thing to try and do.
Yeah, but having said that, if it had turned out to be the ball that got Yang away, and we'd have we'd either scored through that or set up a chance, then we'd all have been applauding it, wouldn't we?
Fair enough.
And John Swift's afternoon would have been very different. But yeah, Swift has had a few. Let's be honest, he's had a few games like that where nothing has quite gone right for him. You can see what he's trying to do, but it hasn't quite come off. For a player of his experience, you look at how many games he's played at this level, and it's a lot for West Brom and other teams before them. I think we expected more of Swift than we've seen so far, and I think his confidence has been hit a little bit by that. I think he's probably not used to having this extended spell of games for any of the teams he's played for. And you can see, when he keeps getting picked. He's not playing every game, as he's had a spell on the bench, but when he gets a start, he's desperate to impress, but he's not impressing, and he will know that, and I'm sure he'll be working hard in training to say to the manager, please give me one more chance. I don't think Swift as one of the midfield two, whether it's alongside Dazal or Pack, is necessarily the best position for him. I think he's probably been put there because we've got other options ahead of him at number 10. And I can't really see him getting many opportunities as the 10 if Chaplin continues to improve, and if Segacic is still there waiting for a chance as well, and Lang is the other one who can play there. So difficult for Swift. We're paying good wages to him, and we expect more, and that's the way football is. You just hope that he, like one or two others that haven't yet hit their levels, will improve over time. But I don't know how many more chances he's going to get in that starting lineup. That's the problem there.
What do you think about the Bowat-Matthews partnership? Because we could be cheering them on in blue shirts for a good few weeks now, what with the injury news that's filtering out. Do they hack it as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think when it was Charlton, or it was the game that only got 12 minutes in. I think it was that game where they were first put together. Well, I think they had the cup game together early season, didn't they? When they didn't really impress, and when they were put together for Charlton away, because Knight and Poole were both injured, I think everybody had a sharp intake of breath and thought, "Oh, not sure about that. That seems a little bit inexperienced. Not sure how we're going to cope with that." But actually, last Saturday, I thought they were both very good. I thought as a partnership and individually, both very good. Boat certainly, I think it's probably fair to say every time we've seen him, he's looked a bit better. Might be one of these players that has just needed game time. And Matthews as well. I've said all along, actually, I don't think Matthews has had many bad games. He might have had one or two suspect games. Home to Stoke was a poor one where he got a bit caught out for Stoke's goal. Still one or two question marks over how sort of robust he is at this level. He even at the end again last week, he had a bit of cramp, I think, didn't he? I've seen that a couple of times from him. Is he, can you rely on him to play week in, week out? Don't think we know that yet. But if Boat and Matthews are together for a few games, or come back together, later in the season if they need to, I don't think we'd have as many worries as we previously would have done, because they've shown they can do it. I thought they both defended sensibly. They won headers. They didn't do anything silly. They did okay with the ball at their feet, finding teammates going forward. Matthews likes to get the ball at his feet and get forward a little bit, doesn't he? Whereas Boat is more one to play a pass when he can. So yeah, encouraging actually. I think the latest is that we might see Poole back quite soon, or well, we might not see him back. It depends if he gets selected, of course. But I think he's available, possibly even this weekend, which gives the manager a nice headache there, doesn't it? For once, usually he's scratching his head because he hasn't got two centre halves. This weekend he might just have three to pick from, which is nice. But no, Boat and Matthews, fair play to them. Both still learning, just finding their way, but encouraging signs.
Yeah, we'll come back to Derby County, which is our next opponent. We're talking, Steve and I, on Friday. You will probably be hearing this after the Derby game. But I'm going to get your thoughts in advance, Steve, on the prospect of facing Derby, because it looks as though they've picked up quite a bargain from the United States. A guy called Patrick Agyemang, who's nearer 6'5" than 6'4", and he's got the bulk and the pace to go with it, and he's now banging them in.
Yes, I don't know too much about Derby. I will admit I haven't looked in detail at them. The thing with Championship clubs is that a lot of them have got a fair bit of money to spend on sort of big signings, haven't they? They're not afraid to spend 2 or 3 million. I don't know the player you're talking about. I don't know how much he's cost, but there's always the chance that you're going to come up against. I mean, this is one below the Premier League. Of course, you're going to come up against good players, and sometimes you're going to come up against players who have not really been on the radar very much. And I suppose it's what Pompey are looking for, isn't it? They're looking for everybody would love Pompey in January to sign a sort of left field choice from somewhere, spend a bit of money on someone who perhaps has done well in another league or at a good level in this country, and if it's someone who can score goals, if it's someone who can come straight into a championship and score goals like the guy at Derby has, all the better. So yeah, well, I suppose in every team that we're going to play and that we have played so far, there's a danger man, isn't there? It's working out who that is, and also making sure that you don't put so much into stopping the in-form player that you then let a couple of out-of-form players have too much space and play their way back into form. So Derby away, it'll be a challenge. We had a nightmare there last year, didn't we? So we'll be looking to avoid similar this season. It'll be a hard game.
Well, we're looking forward to your prediction for that one, as ever. But I want to talk to you a little bit. I want to get your thoughts about some of the other positions on the pitch, particularly fullbacks, which is a bit of a spit and sawdust job. But on the other hand, Terry Devlin was named in the EFL Championship Team of the Week, which is he's starting to get noticed, Terry Devlin. Maybe we ought to handcuff him to the building or something. I don't know if people are going to start getting interested in him. But our fullbacks, considering they are a lash-up, are doing a pretty good job.
They are, actually. We've had to mix and match, really, haven't we? Ogilvie was the man at left-back and doing okay until he got injured. And since then, we've seen Williams a couple of times, haven't we? But Swanson at left back at the moment is actually he's playing like he's played there a long time, isn't he? Given that that's his wrong side, he's not letting that phase him at all. He looks quite at home there. His defending is okay. Occasionally, I think he maybe lets his man. He gives his man a bit too much space to run at him, and you worry about whether that's going to end in him getting into a good area and getting a dangerous cross in, and once or twice it has. But generally, Swanson's defending is okay, and he does like to get forward, doesn't he? He was involved in the equaliser, wasn't he? It was a little pass from him out to Murphy before Murphy went on and crossed. And yeah, I mean, if Ogilvie's not back until end of Jan, which I think is the latest outlook, the latest prognosis, you'd be quite happy to have Swanson in that left back position, with perhaps Williams as a backup if needed. Until then, I don't think we desperately need to go out and buy any old left back on the 1st of January. I think we're okay at the moment if everybody stays fit. And on the other side, Devlin, I mean, every time Devlin plays, he just gives his all, doesn't he? He's got such energy. Fans love him because of his style. Chase everything, and actually, he's not a bad right back as well. He wins it for a short guy. He wins a lot of headers. He's very good in the air. He times his jumps for headers beautifully, and he defends okay. Gets stuck in. There's going to be occasions where he gets caught out by an experienced left winger, because he's not had that many games at right back still. Let's not forget. He came to us when he came to us. We were thinking he was a sort of number 10 first and foremost, and he still is. I've seen a few people say they'd like to see Williams in at right back and Devlin tried in central midfield in one of those two positions there. And I think that would be interesting. I don't think that's necessarily in the manager's mind at the moment, but it'd be an interesting experiment if we needed to do it one week, because I think Devlin would relish that role. He'd be chasing and harrying everything, wouldn't he? Wouldn't let the opposition midfield have any time. But no, hats off to Devlin and Swanson, both above and beyond at the moment. Let it continue.
Yeah, I mean, fashions come and go in football, don't they? I was only thinking the other day that 4:20 in the afternoon on a winter's day, you used to be able to look across the pitch to the fans at the other side of the ground or the other end of the ground, and you would see endless cigarettes being lit up, people's matches and lighters coming on, and the fags being lit. But of course, you don't see that anymore, and I'm beginning to wonder whether fullbacks are going to go the same way, and in the not too distant future there'll be no such thing.
Yeah, what, because of the way a team lines up?
Yeah,
and they're not seen as defenders so much as they always have been.
Well, three at the back and versatility and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's already been a move towards, there's many more teams now play with wing backs than used to be the norm, didn't they? Whenever you used to have 5 at the back, it was a flat back 4 and a sweeper, wasn't it? You don't really hear about sweepers anymore, do you?
No.
So yeah, if football changes, doesn't it? Although I do think sometimes the old ways and the old methods come back round to being in fashion, don't they? Which I quite like. I think if you are starting out in your football career as a fullback, 20, 30, 40 years ago, if you wanted to be a fullback, you just had to be a very good, solid defender, good man marker, a good defender. Didn't matter about anything else. Now, if you fancy yourself as a fullback and you're coming through the ranks and you're in an academy or whatever, you have to be a good all-round player. You still have to be able to defend, but you have to be able to get forward as well, and you have to be adaptable and play in many different positions. As our current two, Devlin and Swanson, who we just talked about, kind of prove that, don't they?
Yep. You mentioned Josh Murphy a moment ago. I want to get your thoughts on him. Is he back to his very best after that period out injured, or is there another 5 or 10% still to come? Do you agree with the rogue commentator who earlier this week posted that Josh Murphy is among the best crossers of the ball in the world of football?
That's a big call, isn't it? In the world, I'll have to think about that one. So I'll answer your first bit of your question first. I think there's still another 5 or 10% to come from him. Actually, I think if you compare how he's playing now compared to the best parts of what we saw from him last season, I think there's still a bit more to come back. And I think that's probably because he was out injured for a little while. He was out for a month or a bit more, I think, wasn't he? I can't quite remember now. And it does you can't expect a player to be out for that long, especially a player who relies on such sort of pace and the type of skills that Murphy has. You can't expect him to come back in and be his old self straight away. And there were a couple of games where he just didn't look himself at all, weren't there? I think Swansea away not so long ago, he didn't do a lot. Was it Sheffield United where he was played on the right instead of the left, and that didn't really work? No. And even a couple of home games where he just you've been looking to him to sort of light the fuse, and he hasn't lit it. But Saturday he looked more like his old self. Some, he gets crosses in from all sorts of angles, actually, doesn't he? That if you look at that one that set up Lang's goal on Saturday, he had 2 or 3 players around him. He took it on, he controlled it a little bit, but he didn't try to beat all 3 of them. He just got the very early cross in because he knew a couple of Pompey shirts were in there, and it paid off. Equally, he likes going past his man down the left and whipping in one. Still quite early, but doing it that way. And a couple of times, which I don't think we saw so much from him early this season, but a couple of times recently I've noticed him doing the cutting in and having a right-footed either shot or cross in, as he can obviously do. Obviously he's a right-footed player, but he's very good with his left foot as well. So yeah, good to see him back in there and something like his best. I think there's a bit more to come. I hope he stays fit and stays in there, because he's an automatic pick if he does. As to whether he's one of the best in the world at crossing, I don't know. I don't watch enough top level football, Premier League and European and international football to know who else is out there. But he's certainly, if he was to get interest from a Premier League club in January, you wouldn't be greatly surprised, would you?
No.
Because there's a few teams up there that could do with that sort of outlet, that have seen him playing well in the Championship and think he'd be worth a look. And I think he said himself, hasn't he? He wants to play in the Premier League before he retires. He's not getting any younger, and if he's going to do that, he's going to need to do it soon. I just hope nobody pinches him from under our nose in January.
Bit of a trivia question for you, but it opens up a can of worms, a talking point. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. When was the last time there was somebody in the stands at Fratton Park from Real Madrid watching a player in the blue shirt?
Probably a few years ago. Although
Harry?
Yeah, it would have been in his day, wouldn't it? I suppose. And we did sell Lassana Diarra to Real Madrid, didn't we? Did we?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I can't imagine there have been too many since then. I'm thinking back to those League Two days where we were losing 1-0 home to York City and drawing with Torquay and struggling to beat Fleetwood and Morecambe. Don't think there was too many Real Madrid scouts there then, was there? Yeah, it's interesting actually, because when people heard that Real Madrid were interested in Yang, I think they were thinking, don't know if we've seen enough of him to kind of explain that, really. But Real Madrid have probably got 1,000 scouts operating around the world, so they spread their net far and wide. They probably heard a few good things about him, perhaps through Tottenham contacts, and thought they'd have a look at him. Don't think he's, if they've been looking at him playing for us in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I don't think they'd have gone away starting to write their cheques. Whereas if they'd looked at him, in those couple of games early season when he was finishing well and looked more of a threat, then maybe more so. We'll see what plans different people have for him in January, I suppose, won't we?
Yeah. What do you think, to what extent, should I say, because I think it's a fact, it does exist, to what extent is the need to be a global brand high in the minds of the big clubs when it comes to acquiring players? If you want to crack the Asian market, say China, they don't seem to be producing any Premier League quality players at the moment, but certainly the likes of Korea and Vietnam, really good, and Japan, really good players are coming through, and it helps raise their profile in an important market.
Yeah, I think it is a big thing for the top clubs these days. Pompey tried it in a bit ahead of their time in 2001 when they signed Yoshi, poor old Yoshi Kawaguchi, the goalkeeper from Japan. And they admitted pretty much at the time that part of that was to make Pompey, to coin a song title, big in Japan. It didn't work because he wasn't very good. He's a nice bloke, but he wasn't really cut out for football in this country.
Yeah, curiously popular though, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. He became a bit of a sort of cult hero in a way, but one that people were pleased to see replaced in goal when he was. And just as an aside, sorry, I know you haven't asked me about Yoshi, and this is all I'm talking about. But he, when I was on the sports desk at the News, we used to, on the back page, we used to have a little panel on the back page every day, just a sort of bite-sized thing about the national and international sport. And one of the things we did was every day we had a champ of the day and a chump of the day. The champ was somebody who'd scored a hat-trick for Brazil or something or whatever. The chump was somebody who fouled up. And Yoshi, I think to this day, remains the only person who on the same day was both champ of the day and chump of the day. It was when he was playing for Japan in the World Cup, and it would have been the 2006 World Cup, I think. He made the save of the tournament, and then 5 minutes later he let one through his legs.
Yeah.
And so he was at both ends. But getting back to your question, back at the question, you see it more and more. You know, there's a lot of sort of South Korean players, Japan, and I suppose to a lesser extent, people are looking for Australian stars, as Pompey are. And I'm sure part of the thinking is not just, are these players that can come and improve us and help us win the Premier League and do whatever else we're going to do well in Europe, but yeah, it's a commercial thing as well, because it takes the club's name and the club's badge and the highlights reels and the footage from the matches to a whole new audience, a massive audience as well, isn't it? And if it's one that will pay a bit of money to watch things and buy things, then you can see why they do it.
I've got to get your thoughts about the latest that we know on the January transfer window. We've been buying players from abroad, such as Australia, Austria, Hungary, and borrowing players from English clubs. Do you think that's going to continue? Or since there is a spoken need by John Messino says to have possibly 6 loan players on our books at the end of January, do you think we might expand our loan activities to international players?
Yeah, it's difficult to know, isn't it? Because the owners have said they want to continue the same sort of approach to buying players, haven't they? They do want to buy young players, unproven at the level, but who have got the potential to be developed. The fans, I think, have winced a little bit of that and have thought, well, that hasn't worked too well in many cases. Quite a few of the ones we've bought since the Eisners. If it's down to the owners, I think we will see some more come in. You'd expect some of those type of players to be loans, whether they are from Premier League under 21 teams and that sort of thing. We've gone down that route, haven't we, a few times. International players as loanees, yeah, it's quite possible. I suppose we're seeing that with Yang at the moment, aren't we? We've loaned him, not probably expecting to be able to buy him, but with the hope of him doing something for us. And I suppose when if you loan a player from a top level club and they do well, okay, you may not be able to then keep that player, but if you've shown yourself to be a club who can bring players on, give them a chance and develop them and improve them, as you might say we did with Freddie Potts, not an international player, but did it with Freddie Potts last year from West Ham, and look at him now, and look at West Ham. It's going to make other clubs more willing to loan players to you, isn't it? They're going to see that Pompey is a good club to loan a player to for a year or half a year, which then kind of opens up the field a little bit in terms of the pool of players that you could potentially bring in. But in terms of January, I do think we're going to see a couple of permanent signings as well. I think the manager wants to make an immediate improvement to what we've got. I think he sees the need for that because of some of the struggles we've had in the first half of the season. I was interested to read a bit from him a day or two ago in which he said they've now got the long list down to a short list, and I started to read on, and he said, we've got it down to 4 or 5 players, and I thought that was going to be a full stop there. But it's 4 or 5 players for every position. That doesn't seem to be a very short list to me. That's about 36 players or something.
It's a full-time job just reading the entire dossier.
Yeah, that's a lot of players. I wonder how long the long list was before that. Did they have 10 players for every position who they wrote down? I suppose there are some that, you start with a long list and you can soon strike some off, can't you? Some of them have been non-starters for different reasons. But it's interesting that even now, what are we, 2 weeks away from January the 1st, pretty much as we speak, a bit more than that, and that there are still that many potential targets. And again, they're saying that they're saying what you'd expect them to say. Don't expect us to sign 6 players on the 1st of January. It's going to be a slow burner of a month. We have to wait, bide our time, see who's available, cross off the ones that become unavailable, add a couple of new ones who come onto the radar. I think they know they need a strong January window. If you take last Saturday's win against Blackburn out of it, before that we were panicking a bit, weren't we? And we were thinking, how on earth is this squad going to stay up? We need half a dozen good players to come straight into the team. Every time you win a game, you kind of change your view a little bit, but you shouldn't change it after just one win. We certainly do need strengthening. And I think, to answer your original question, I think we will see a couple more loans. I think we'll see probably a couple of current loanees go back. Bianchini would be the obvious one, who we're probably not going to see anymore. So I think there'll be a couple of loanees coming in, and they might be 20, 21-year-olds again. But I do think there'll be 2 or 3 permanent signings, perhaps a bit of money spent on them, who will be challenging for first team places from the start.
Excellent. Just to round things off with your excellent predictions, the Football News Agency, calling themselves the 72, their experts have all done their predictions, and we're carrying it on Pompey Sound, and they're all saying we're going to lose to Derby.
That's cheered us all up. That's nice. I can see why they're saying that, because we're so inconsistent. Do you know the last time we won 2 games in a row?
Ooh. Oh.
There's a given that Christmas is coming up, there is a
1984. I don't know.
It's not quite that bad. Easter. It was Easter.
Yeah.
We won,
okay.
If you remember, we won at Norwich on Good Friday. Beat Watford on the Easter Monday. So given that was Easter and now we're at Christmas, maybe we'll do it again. I just hope. You went away from that Blackburn game last week thinking that was great, big win, much needed. We just need to build on it. You think back to the Millwall game 3 weeks earlier, we went away with the same thought after that, thinking now can we just go and grind something out at Sheffield United? No, we didn't. We couldn't. It was terrible. And we then lost at home the following Saturday. This time it would be nice. And I was looking back at our previous wins this season. We've only had one a month, so it didn't take long. After 2 of our previous 3 home wins, we followed it up with a good solid away point. We beat Middlesbrough at home and then went to Southampton. We beat Middlesbrough at home and then went to Leicester and got a good draw, and we beat Preston early season and then went to Southampton and got a draw. I'm just hoping, and I'm predicting, in fact, that's what we're going to do again, and we're going to go to Derby and we're going to grind out a nice 1-1 draw. Colby Bishop's going to score, and we'll all be happy for at least another week.
Excellent. As ever, Steve, thank you so much indeed for everything, and we'll talk soon.
Look forward to it.